Hello, and welcome to the Focus Series, a podcast channel by AUA's Media Lab. This podcast is part of the iResilience Project, a Swedish institute-funded collaboration between AUA and scholars from Estonia, Ukraine, and Sweden. The iResilience Project aims to enhance the resilience of societies in case of crises by contributing to the growth of well-informed communities and promoting good governance practices. I'm Shawn McIntosh, chair of the Masters in Multiplatform Journalism at AUA. Today's guest is Samvel Martirosyan. He's a media expert and IT specialist, and one of the leading experts in information, disinformation, and the role that IT plays in Armenia and abroad. So welcome, Samvel.
Hi.
So the first question, since we are in a media lab, let me ask about what kinds of social experiments are taking place because of digital information and the media in the Armenian environment today?
Experiments, you mean by bad actors?
Yeah, it could be bad or
actors.
Yeah. Okay. So we could start with the bad actors. Yeah.
In general, I have hypothesis that Armenia is kind of a lab for a lot of bad actors, state.
Okay.
Let's say state-baked bad actors, because it's a small country. It's country in a conflict, in a very tough geopolitical situation, and even in some cases, first we need to accept that in the area of internet, in many cases, it's really hard to attribute, to understand who is behind some influence operations, information or psychological operations. And in some cases, I believe that it's not targeting Armenia, but someone is playing. It's kind of rehearsals or, I don't know, trials or something like that. Experiments.
So kind of essentially a laboratory, you're saying. So testing out certain
kind of tests, because a small country with a good internet penetration, with a very politically active society. So
right.
It's a really nice place for experiments.
Okay, yeah, testing it out, right. Do you feel that, so is Armenia, do you feel it's a conflict society or a post-conflict society?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I will say that it's post-modern, post-conflict, post-society at the moment, because we are so divided. In social media, you can see that one person is in one comments feels himself as a far right because of his fighting for traditions. The same person on another place, he feels him as a political activist for some party. On another place, he's struggling for Armenian history against some other nation, etc., etc. So somehow we see many divides inside the society.
Right.
And if someone is active in social media, he's sometimes changing his roles during the day.
Right.
In one case, he is a Christian. In another case, he is a member of political party. In another case, he's Armenian. In another case, he is a member of European community and fighting against, I don't know, Islamic State or something like that.
Right.
So, it's very strange society. I don't think that all others are too different. Internet created a very strange situation. But in general, but Armenia plus to this, it's society in post-war situation, but still continuing war. And this war with Azerbaijan is also very strange because it's post-conflict and situation when we don't have direct kinetic war, let's say, but we have hybrid conflict.
Right. So it's kind of an anxiety situation all the time, even though there's not any direct conflict, right?
Yeah, because of that, our society sometimes we can feel that a lot of people is under post-traumatic
stress disorder.
And plus to that, people are feeling that they are a part of different fights between another opposite part. And in some cases, you feel that people are trying to find opposite. They can find some artist and believe that he's a Satanist and starting to fight against him. And this guy never heard about this, but he's becoming a Satanist because the opposite part is blaming him.
Right. Yeah. So do you think some of those factors you're talking about, do you think those were present in Armenian society already, that kind of factionalism and that kind of divisiveness that you were talking about? Was that there already, and then the internet has just expanded it or made it more intense? Or do you think the internet has caused some of those divisions too?
I wrote a few months ago a huge international research on a big divide between genders even. That young males becoming more right, and young ladies becoming more left. And this is huge divide inside the very different societies.
Right.
I think that not internet, but information flow, types of information flow. So this is too fast, too much. We are living in the situation when it's really hard to understand, are you reading a real story or someone just made a joke? Or is this a real photo or it's AI generated? So the new generations are perceiving the world in a very different way. Sometimes even they cannot explain how. And we cannot understand. They can't explain, we can't understand. So it creates a very strange situation. I will say that we had something before internet era, but internet changed its quantitative and qualitative. And AI will change again. I really afraid to prognose what will happen after 10 years.
Yeah. It's a very dangerous game to do that.
So in general, let's say internet somehow grow from the roots which we had, but it adds something new. We can't say that it's just increased only.
It's added other dimensions to it. Do you find in your studies so far, do you find that younger people are more or less capable of analyzing information or more or less critical than, let's say, older generations who are also on the internet?
First perception, level of perception, that older generation is very dummy on the internet way. Youngsters are more computer literate, and parents always say, "Oh, my son or my daughter, he or she is a genius because she can open a YouTube channel and make lives, etc." But in general, it's nothing very specific. The problem is that there is a psychological gap for the older generation. They cannot understand some things, cannot operate with some things. And the youngsters, they already born on the world which was full of gadgets. So they don't feel the gap between them and the gadgets, so they can operate very easy.
Right.
Sometimes it's very metaphysical because 2 years old child can do the things which you tried to understand for months on the iPad or something like that.
Right.
But on the other hand, the older generation, they or we remember old type of information, the new type, so we can distinguish somehow.
Right.
The youngsters, they just born directly in the sea. Right. They are swimming very good, but they don't see the water.
Right.
And I can say that situation is worsening now because what we have new type of humans. We call them influencers.
Right.
And influencers are why they called influencer, because they can influence.
Right.
We think that influencers just influencing because about haircuts or how to be more vogue, etc. But it's only one part of influencers. Another, they are teaching a lot of things. And we came to the situation when youngsters, they just swallowing this information which is coming from Reels, TikTok, Shorts from YouTube, and they are not analyzing it.
Right.
Because they know somehow unconsciously maybe that everything what is coming from adults, it's not a good thing. It's too old-fashioned, not interesting, and the adults are lying a lot.
Right.
Because they have seen adults in parliament, in Congress, in White House, I don't know.
And they have parents.
Yeah. Because of that, the younger generation is going to learn from youngsters.
Right.
It's very non-specific situation in whole human history.
Right.
Because always younger generation got the information and knowledge from the upper generations.
Right.
Now it's became horizontal.
Okay.
Even just statistically, you can look to the Wikipedia. 2/3 of contributors are 20, 21 years.
Oh, right. And I think mostly male too, right? I think it's balanced a little bit more, but it's still mostly a white male realm, basically, right?
The same, yeah.
Right.
So because they don't like schools, it was always. But before, school was a monopoly. And now they have school, but they have another pipeline. It's an internet. So they are going to the internet and they perceive everything which is coming from internet as a true.
Okay, right.
Because the cool guys are telling cool stories.
Right.
So I afraid that after 2-3 years, younger generation cannot distinguish true or false,
right?
And they will live in the world where are no true or false.
Right.
It's just I've seen it or I never seen it on Instagram.
Okay, right.
So that's the difference, and it's of course it's very dangerous.
Right. How much you mentioned the bad state actors early on? How much influence do you think the bad state actors have on something like this in terms of creating this media environment, creating the content that they know young people are going to want to see and to consume?
Just one question. Are we speaking globally or about Armenia or in general?
Yeah, in general, and we can,
one of the main rules of manipulation, influence operations, when it's going between the countries, it's to destroy the trust towards any institution. towards media, towards education, towards what you learned before, etc. So bad actors intentionally attacking all traditional sources of the information
knowledge,
and knowledge. So that means that they are really influencing this, targeting this, and they are consciously filling the information field with an enormous amount of fake news, not to create just disinformation, but to destroy the possibility to understand what is right, what is wrong.
Okay, so that goes back to what you were saying before about losing that ability to tell truth from fiction, basically, right?
I thought that it is just historically happening, but this game, it's another level when it is done consciously. They purely understand what they are doing.
Right. And you said you wrote an article in December 2024, kind of not predicting, but saying some of the main threats, information threats that Armenia would be facing in 2025. Can you just briefly go over what some of those main topics were that you had written about?
First, of course, for me personally, the ugliest part is elections in 2025, because before every election, and now it will be worse, I think. We have a huge waves of disinformation because all parts are struggling and fighting against each other, and it is decreasing the level of journalism because a lot of new media outlets are opening just to be a part of propaganda of political parties. A lot of existing media outlets are going to serve for political parties. So then we need 1 or 2 years to a little bit recover after that. Another threat are external bad actors, of course. The main, it's Azerbaijan. In some cases, I will say Azerbaijan plus Turkey, because Turkey is one of the best players on the field of hybrid operations. It's a country which is in continuous hybrid wars in Africa, in Asia, in Europe against Greece, for example.
Right. Can you explain how hybrid war or hybrid operation would work in general?
It's the most unexplainable topic, because that means that there is a war, but it is not as you know. Kinetic war means that soldiers are fighting, airplanes, drones, etc. Hybrid war means that there is no front line. There are a lot of other tools like information tools or some cyber tools, financial. You can use money interventions to destroy the economy of the enemy. And there is no front line. In some cases, it's almost impossible to attribute who is attacking.
Oh, right. Okay.
And propaganda and disinformation is one of the main tools of hybrid operations.
And you say Turkey is very sophisticated with that.
They started it a long time ago. I remember the times when I have spoken with European or US colleagues. It was 10 plus years ago, and told them that we are in tough information war with Azerbaijan and Turkey, so it's very dangerous. They always told me, come on, it's not a real thing. So it's just forget about it. There are a lot of real problems, etc. After 2014, when they faced Russian hybrid operations, finally they understood that information war sometimes can be more dangerous than the real conflict. And if it is combined with a cyber operations against critical infrastructure, theoretically, thanks God at the moment, for example, cyber attack against energetic system or dams can cause more casualties than even nuclear bombing.
Right, exactly.
People cannot accept it because it's psychologically, again, hard to understand that some 20 years old guy in another part of the planet can destroy them and cause really huge damages. So Turkey is baking, of course, Azerbaijani hybrid attacks against Armenia. Plus, we have serious influence operations from Russia. Of course, they believe that it's their region, and because of floating Armenia to the west, they will increase the pressure, and they have more or less big part of the society which is pro-Russian, and they can use also these internal agents. People will not understand that they are used by Russia, but we can see the same in Ukraine.
You can see the same kind of dynamics taking place, And so this is all going to be coming about with the 2026 election, that this is all going to start ramping up then, with some of these things. How can somebody, tell, just because a new media organization starts up, in 2025 or, starts up early 2026, doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be a disinformation or a hybrid operation. It could be a legitimate media organization. How can people, understand that what information they're getting is actually going to be truthful information? What steps can they take?
It's going harder and harder because, for example, if we would sit here, 10 years ago, even more, I would say just check Facebook account. If it's created 2 days ago, that means it's fake account. It is used for spreading disinformation. It's very easy. Or Google photos, just right click on photo and Google it, and you will find the source. Now it's really hard even for professional. Sometimes during the trainings I'm giving to the journalists AI generated photos and real photos and asking to find which is which. And even for professionals, it took half an hour.
Wow.
To understand. But the models
they're evolving all the time, getting so much better.
So usually what I am telling to ordinary people when they are asking how to deal with the information, how to understand, is it intended disinformation or it is just misinformation, or I don't know. My suggestion is, first, if you are really interested, go to online courses. There are a lot of, for example, Bellingcat, really good organization.
They're great.
A lot of stuff.
They're a great organization.
And you can teach yourself, and then you can teach your, your relatives, etc. But it took time, and you need to renew your knowledge after, 3 months. It is one possibility, and of course 99 and 99.999 said, give another solution. Another solution is to take these steps. every information, just perceive it that it's not checked.
Okay.
That means that it can be false.
Right.
First, you should consciously accept it. The second thing is try to go to the media outlets which have fact-checking teams. In Armenia, there are not so many.
Okay.
It's HEDC, CivilNet, Infocom, and FIP.am.
Oh, okay.
I suppose I didn't forget anyone. I hope so. But if it's really important information, they would check. Maybe you will read it after 15 minutes,
right.
but it's okay
right.
to wait. And the third suggestion is not to share anything before you checked it for 100%.
Right. Okay. So, yeah. So I think that one of those points you mentioned about being critical and just initially thinking that the information is maybe false. How do you avoid somebody sliding into cynicism? So, kind of going back to what you had said earlier about who can tell what is the truth? I just throw up my hands.
Yeah, it's becoming a disaster. It's like pandemic situation with this kind of cynicism. And of course, the only way which I see, we cannot stand and like a preacher speak about moral. These kind of people don't accept these types of moral things.
Preaching, yeah.
I think the only way at the moment, just to show on examples how disinformation really harmed personally someone or even harmed societies. And Armenia is good example for Armenians.
Right.
We can see how it happened many times.
No, that's interesting. It comes back to the power of storytelling, basically, is what you're saying, right? Which is a very powerful tool to persuade and to inform people. So,
sure.
Yeah.
People believe and taking into account when they see that it happens with the real
exactly
people.
Right, exactly,
and not far, I don't know, not in Africa, but really in our
happened to a neighbor, happened to a friend, family member. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this has been very enlightening, and we hopefully have given some kinds of ideas on how to try to improve somebody's media literacy, information literacy, even as crazy a world as it is now.
In general, I think one of the big mistakes that we are all trying to increase media literacy, but first we need to increase literacy in general. If someone, for example, cannot count percents, and he's becoming a victim of fake investing advertisement, it's not a problem of sometimes media literacy. He even cannot understand what is percent. He see that it's a lot of money, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's a real issue in America, actually, with the numeracy. We call it numeracy. You have literacy for reading, numeracy for numbers, and many people have a strange pride in not being numerate. But if you were I have a mathematician colleague who has a great example. If you're at a party and you talk to somebody, what do you do? And you say, I'm a poet. And I don't understand those word things. You would never say that. But if you say, I'm a mathematician, I don't understand numbers, it's almost prideful to do that. And it's very destructive, as you say. If you're not numerate, you fall victim to that, right? So, so this has been very interesting. Thank you very much for spending the time to talk with us, and really appreciate it.
Thank you for good questions.